Janice Dickinson is the latest woman to come forward with rape allegations against Bill Cosby. Now, it might seem as though this is the first time she's talking about it. However, Howard Stern did release tape from 2006 where Janice Dickinson was very clear that she had very, very bad feelings toward Bill Cosby and that he was a bad man who had taken advantage of many women. Now, she gave this interview to Entertainment Tonight, and here's what happened. Dickinson said the incident took place in 1982 when she was only 27 years old. I was on a job in Bali in Indonesia, and he called, she said to Entertainment Tonight. The conversation was, to the best of my recollection, you need to get to Lake Tahoe because I'll be performing there and I want to offer you that job we talked about, as well as helping you out with that singing career. According to her statement, Dickinson was in her hotel room with Cosby when he gave her a glass of red wine, again, very similar to what all the other women are saying, and a pill. The next morning I woke up and I wasn't wearing my pajamas. I remember before I passed out that I had been sexually assaulted by this man before I woke up in the morning. The last thing I remember was Bill Cosby in the patchwork robe, dropping his robe and getting on top of me.
Of all the different recollections of the women, that to me was the most jarring, because it creates a visual for you of, as you're about to pass out after some guy gave you a pill, you see him disrobe and mount you. Ah! Oh my God.
And you can't control it.
And you can't control it. I mean, again, if you're a woman, or it could be a guy, you know, more men suffer rape in the military and obviously in prison than women do, right? Mm-hmm. So anybody can relate to that in that sense. And the idea is the last thing you see is a guy mounting you. Ah, it's terrifying, terrifying. Now, of course, Cosby's lawyer comes out and says Janice Dickinson's just looking for attention. All these charges are all old, they're all discredited. He hired an attorney that is far more aggressive. Mm-hmm. And so this is a guy who is now going to be on the warpath against any of these charges.
Right.
And he's an attorney that's normally hired by celebrities when they need to solve issues like this.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't mean that anybody's guilty. You hire the same attorney if you want to aggressively fight back against false charges as well as true charges, mm-hmm. right? So having said that, this is now woman number 15 coming out with nearly identical stories, same fact pattern. Now, look, if I'm his attorney, I say, well, they heard it in the press,
yeah.
right? So it's easy to copy the story you just heard. You just change a couple of the details, etc. And here's a guy who's famous. Here's a guy who's rich, etc. But now remember, none of these women are suing him.
No.
Right? It wasn't like the Michael Jackson case where the whole thing was leading to a lawsuit. Well, then you can say, well, if you got molested by Michael Jackson, you might also sue, but there is a financial incentive, right? These are women who did not sue him then, who didn't bring it, and then he never went to court, mm-hmm. right? So now some of the civil charges back in 2006, he settled out of court. We don't know how much that was for, mm-hmm. but he's never been convicted. He's never been charged. I'm just telling you, there are 15 women with very similar stories, and the idea that they all made it up, because they all retroactively, that second to last woman is from 1969, right? That with allegations. Well, she wants to get famous now after she's in a completely different field doing something else with her life? Or that she wants to sue now, or she wants what? Does she wants to go get a rich and famous guy?
I don't see what the incentive is, yeah.
I don't see what the incentive is. It seems improbable.
Right. Now, NBC must realize that this is a very, very controversial issue that they want nothing to do with, and as a result, they have decided to scrap Bill Cosby's upcoming sitcom with the network. So that sitcom will not be happening, and also Netflix has decided to put the stand-up that they were going to air on hold, okay? So his stand-up will not be available at the end of November, which is what they were planning on doing originally. We don't know whether or not they're going to get rid of the stand-up completely or if they're just going to postpone it for a later time. But as we know now, Netflix will not be showing his stand-up in late November.
One of the accusers, Barbara Bowman, said about the NBC pilot and sitcom, I think it's irresponsible to put him back in a position of a patriarchal father in an authoritative and trusted position. I'm very disappointed that he would be endorsed in that type of role again. Which is a fair point, and apparently NBC has reconsidered since she said that. Now, I'm not here to judge Bill Cosby because we're not in a court of law, although I just told you what my opinion on it is based on what we know right now in the in the press. Okay. But if I was NBC, I would have to make a decision.
Right.
Right? And I agree with NBC's decision. I would definitely put this on hold.
Yeah, they made the right decision.
Because at a bare minimum, you got to see if this does go to court at some point and have that adjudicated. And
this is one of the stories where I have no idea how it's going to end. Like, is there going to be an investigation? I mean, obviously there are statute of limitation issues, and I don't know how it's all going to play out, which is why, and this is not to blame any of the victims or anyone who went through what they're alleging. If you're a victim of rape, you have to go to the authorities right away and get evidence, collected, because you don't want that person to do it over and over and over again. And I know it's a difficult thing to do because people are going to doubt you. It's uncomfortable, but it's the only way to get justice. Because let's say that these accusations are true. He was able to do this for decades with absolutely no ramifications.
Yeah. I don't know why I give advice to these guys, but if I was giving advice to Bill Cosby, it'd be the same advice I give to Donald Sterling. There's a cave with your name written on it. Go in hiding. Okay, I mean, what are you doing trying to make sitcoms and do comedy specials? You're 77 years old.
He's emboldened by the fact that he never really had to deal with the consequences. Okay, he paid a settlement out of court. We don't know how much that settlement was, but he never had to face real criminal charges.
Whether he's guilty or not guilty, Bill Cosby's reputation is done. Stick a fork in it. Nobody's going to look at Bill Cosby the same again.